Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about cheap records that sound very expensive and an expensive record that unfortunately sounds really cheap. I'm talking about just getting the best bang for your buck. Some of these records are dirt cheap. Some of these are just the least expensive for the best sound. And unfortunately, I did pay a lot of money for a very disappointing sounding record. So let's go ahead and get started by talking about a record that a lot of people would consider audiophile no matter what version you have. I started out with the original. I then was gifted the Mobile Fidelity version that came out in 1984 of Donald Fagen's The Nightfly. This is a tremendous record. I have wonderful memories of hearing the song IGY when it came out. I was very young. I had no idea what the title of that song was. IGY stands for International Geophysical Year. Very complicated. I didn't know until I was an adult what the title of that song was or who sang it. I just remembered hearing it, loving it. I have a really wonderful memory of being in an old mall. It's the one where, if you watched a couple weeks ago, a video where I talked about and showed pictures of the old record store I used to shop at and what it looks like today. I remember walking around that mall and in the speakers throughout that mall hearing IGY by Donald Fagen, a beautiful song. This 1984 version of it sounds really good. It's not cheap. There's also a one-step that came out a few years back, and unfortunately it's no longer available, and on the secondary market, it's about a $500 set. Outrageously expensive. Don't know how it sounds. It might be better than what I'm about to show you, but for $500, I'm never going to know because I'm not going to pay that much money. I did find this one particular record. It was not expensive at all. And I think now, if you want to buy it on Discogs, it's about a $60 record. You might be able to get it for even cheaper, and yet I think it sounds glorious. And I'm talking about Donald Fagen's QX2 limited edition pressing of The Nightfly. It absolutely sounds so vivid. It's so gorgeous. It is on this transparent vinyl that when you hold it up to the light, you can see through it. It was mastered by Robert Ludwig. I'm not sure. It might have been just the metal work of an original copy put on this amazing vinyl where it's so quiet that all you hear is the music. So Robert Ludwig master disc, this Quiet X 2 vinyl. This beat that 1984 Mobile Fidelity version, and for about a $50 to $60 record, I'll probably never know about the one step. Sounds absolutely wonderful. This next record is another one that I really love. Yes, Fragile. As you can see, I do own the one step of this record, and it sounds tremendous. I did a blind shootout, and I picked out of 4 different records, I picked the Mobile Fidelity one step to be my very favorite. Again, it's sold out. You have to buy it on the secondary market for about a $200 to $300 price point. Really high price point. But if you don't want to spend that kind of money, I highly recommend getting this one instead. It is Fragile's Yes, and this one is mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. Now my version from 2016, my complaint about it is the vinyl is very noisy, and I'm not alone in that complaint. Other people have said that too. However, if you can avoid the 2016 pressing of it and get something more recent that has Kevin Gray from Coherent Audio, grab it. If it wasn't for the noisy vinyl, this would be a great sounding record. Of course, the One Step has that super vinyl that's super quiet. I don't have that problem with my One Step, but this one is a very good alternative if you don't want to spend $200 to $300 to get a beautiful pressing of Yes's Fragile. Now, I would assume that if you want to get a super clean version of Fragile, to get an original wouldn't be cheap either. So for about a $30 price point, this one, if you can get one that's a later pressing than the 2016, because I think it's been pressed again with that same metalwork on better vinyl, I think that's the way to go. This sounds extremely good. Next up is a record you can buy any day, every day for under $10. It's a dirt cheap record that you see all the time. But if you do see it, give it a second glance, because no, it doesn't sound quite as good as the two I've just shown, but it sounds extremely good, especially for the money. It is Long Distance Voyager by the Moody Blues, and my particular pressing is an RCA Record Club pressing, so an original regular pressing might even sound better than this one. And yet, for under $10, I was blown away by the sound quality. Of course, the Moody Blues are all about great sounding music. They are a great band with a lot of great sound. And I really enjoy this album, the voice. It's, again, like IGY, it's one of those songs that I never knew the title of, but always loved. And when I figured out what the title was, I had to have this record in my collection. And the whole album is extremely good and extremely great sounding. So even for a record club pressing, wow, it's fantastic. And I highly recommend picking it up. I don't think you would be very disappointed. I think the sound quality is good, the song The Voice, and so many others are really great songs for that album. Next up, I'm just going to say these records are, no matter which title you get, sound phenomenal. The album covers are gorgeous. Some of these in this series are getting serious markdowns, and you need to pay attention and pick them up, or at least that's my opinion, that's my recommendation. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm talking about the Blue Note Tone Poets. The album covers are so sturdy and beautiful, and these records sound expensive. You know, if you want to get a first pressing of some of these records, you're going to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You're probably going to get about the same sound quality, and yet this one's probably going to be a quieter press. These reissues of all of these wonderful jazz titles are being marked down. Like this one, for example, Gil Evans Orchestra. Yes, there's a little bit more of an orchestral sound to this one, but it's like so many other titles, they're going on sale. They cost $38.98 for the regular price, and for what you get, that's a good value. But take this one for an example. This one was $30. It was marked down $9 off, basically. It sounds absolutely wonderful. And there's so many of these tone poets that are going on sale. You do not want to miss out. This is what I call a cheaper record with expensive sound. You're not going to believe how great these tone poets are. If you're into jazz, do not let these tone poets pass you by. I've got several orders for some of these, some from the In Groove, some from Blue Note, a couple of them from Amazon. Don't tell anybody. I order from Amazon on occasionally. You know, I don't make a habit of it, but sometimes I can't resist when the price is right. All right, so let's go ahead and move on now to the record that disappointed me. I paid $35 for this record. It's a first pressing from 1975 from a band that I love and a record I love. I've listened to this record, I've streamed it in my car for a long time, and I've always thought to myself, I can't wait to get it on vinyl, it's going to sound so good. And then I found a clean copy on vinyl for $35, Sabotage by Black Sabbath. What a killer record, right? I mean, there's just so much to love about this record. The guitar playing, Ozzy's vocals, it takes you one direction to another. I love this record. So, yes, there are UK versions of this record that I'm sure sound fantastic, but I don't live in the UK, so they're not easy for me to get. I've had good luck with first pressings of the early Black Sabbath on that Army Green Warner Brothers label. So I found this one. It is on the Palm Tree label, but again, it's Warner Brothers. It's a US pressing. It is first pressing and it's super clean, 1975. This is a Terre Haute pressing and I'm very disappointed. I thought this was going to sound amazing. It is dull. It is lifeless. I don't know what happened because, like I said, I have other US pressings that sound pretty good. This one does not stack up to those earlier Black Sabbath records. So I paid $35 for a record that I honestly think the streaming version sounds just as good. So avoid at least the Terre Haute pressing. Maybe there's other pressings that sound better than the Terre Haute version. If you know of a better sounding copy of this record, leave it below in the comments because I have to have something that sounds better than that. Such a good record. I gotta have a good one in my collection. Next up is another record that if I had seen this label when I first started collecting based on what other people were telling me, I would have avoided it like the plague. I now know better though. So this is from 1973. It is David Bowie's Pinups. First off, I bought this. I don't know how I didn't notice it, but there was a little peeled off patch that someone decided to just take a royal blue marker to. I mean, it's very obvious, and yet I missed it. I guess I was so excited about the clean vinyl. It was a very affordably priced record on clean vinyl, and I have a hard time finding early David Bowie records, and I love this one. It sounds great. It's so fresh and crisp, and yet the first pressing is on Dynaflex. This is an Indianapolis pressing. It sounds wonderful. If you see Dynaflex, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's flimsy, it's thin, but the vinyl that they used for it is quality. They just made them thinner, so they used less vinyl. They sound really good, and I'm so glad to add that one to the collection. So David Bowie's Pinups. I now have a beautiful copy of it, paid under $20 for a first pressing from Indianapolis, and I'm so pleased with the sound quality. I mean, I love this album. For one, Where Have All the Good Times Gone? This is my third favorite, Van Halen. I love that version of it. I also love the Kinks version of it. And I love See Emily Play. It's just a great record by David Bowie. So next up is one that I was very surprised when I put it on the turntable because this one came out in 1986 when vinyl was kind of going out. People weren't paying as much attention to it. I know I was buying cassettes at that time. CDs were coming in. Vinyl was kind of getting a little neglected. So when I put this record on, I was so surprised at how dreamy and enchanting it sounded. I'm talking about Madonna's True Blue. First off, the photograph is so beautiful of her, taken by Herb Ritts. A lot of people really loved him as a photographer. A lot of celebrities trusted him completely when they had photo sessions with him. And I just think this is a beautiful picture of Madonna. And I know that she's got a very harsh exterior at times, but she dedicated this album to her husband of the time, Sean Penn. And as of today, still yet, I never hear her say anything negative about him. Anytime his name gets brought up, she kind of melts that exterior a little bit. And I'm not saying she's still in love with him or anything like that, but I do think he was someone very, very special in her life. She's also someone I'm very concerned about right now because she's had some bad health issues. Her and Jamie Foxx had something really extreme happen to them, and we haven't been getting a lot of updates, so it kind of scares me a little bit. But anyway, 1986's True Blue. I love the song Live to Tell. I've always been a big fan. The song Papa Don't Preach. Anytime I hear that song, or Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, or Let's Make Lots of Money by the Pet Shop Boys, or In Your Wildest Dreams by the Moody Blues, I'm immediately transported into a cornfield in the hottest time of the year, July, and I am detasseling corn back when I was 16 years old. It was the hardest job I ever had, and it was one of the most rewarding because I took that job because the pay was better than any other job I could have gotten that year, and I used all of that money to buy my own car. So I was 16 years old, and I bought my own car, every penny with my own money. And that was a great feeling. My mom couldn't yank my keys away and ground me for anything because I paid for it myself. Maybe she could have. She had authority over me, but she didn't. It was just a wonderful accomplishment. So I love Papa Don't Preach, Open Your Heart, Live to Tell, Where's the Party, True Blue, La Isla Bonita. This is a really great sounding record. I was actually very surprised at the quality of how it sounds. And my copy is a club pressing. It's very cheap. It was very affordable. Columbia record, Columbia House pressing. So again, that is a great sounding record for very little money. And that brings me to the last two records, and they're by Steely Dan. And they bring up a little bit of an issue I have. I bought both of these records very early on in vinyl collecting, and they sound tremendous. I also like the idea of having a UHQR of them, but the price of those UHQRs, they're very expensive. So the smart part of me thinks, don't buy them. You got good copies. They sound great. But then there's a part of me that thinks, oh, but I would love to have those UHQRs because I'm sure they sound fabulous too. Let's go ahead and talk about one of my favorite Steely Dan albums, Gaucho. I love the song Hey 19. I've always been a big fan of it. It's just kind of got that offbeat and synthesizer sound. I love the sarcastic and funny lyrics of this song. I've just been a big fan. I love side 2. I love everything about this album. And this one was mastered by Robert Ludwig, so it sounds really good. I probably paid $5 or less. Thankfully, I got into record collecting when records were still pretty cheap. I think it's now a $25 record. I don't really know why there's a gold stamp on here. I don't know that it's a gold stamp promo. It doesn't say anywhere on here that it is. But I don't see it on every single copy that I see either. So a fantastic record, sounds very, very solid. I'm sure the UHQR will probably be better, but I don't know how much. I don't know that it's really worth paying all that extra money. That's just something I will have to decide when the time comes. Also, Asia, Steely Dan. Again, this was a very cheap record I bought very early on in collecting. And after I bought this one, I bought the Mo-Fi version, and I had the original in a box to get rid of. And I happened to see Tim. He has University of Vinyl channel, and he did a video all dedicated to Bernie Grundman mastered records. And he showed Asia by Steely Dan. And he said, if you have the copy AB 1006, it's the one you need. It's so fantastic. And he went on about that, made a great video. And so I went to the box and I just grabbed this. I thought, well, I better check and see what this one is. Sure enough, it was the AB 1006. And I put it back on the turntable. I'm like, yeah, I can't get rid of this. This sounds incredible. So I have a really great sounding version. The Mo-Fi version is good too, but this one is better. So those are all records that are cheap, or at least kind of cheap. The Steely Dans now run about $20, $25. They're not expensive, but they sound extremely expensive. I also want to give a special thank you to a viewer named Terry. He gave me this wonderful record, the James Clark Institute, The Color of Happy. It is signed by James Clark. I'm very thrilled to have his autograph. It's a beautiful power pop record. It meant a lot to Terry. He lost his father, and while in the grips of grief, he played this record a lot, and it brought joy and comfort to him. The power pop, the beautiful record. I'm going to leave a link below so you can check it out. Give it a listen. You can order it if you want to. I think it's available probably on CD or vinyl. Thank you so much to Terry for giving me an autographed copy. I'm so honored. And thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.